Have you guys heard of the phrase Brontour, the makeup technique Brontouring? It's certainly not new in any way, shape, or form, but I see it trending back, so I figured we should talk about it. This is definitely a beginner's guide, how to Brontour for the beginner. We're gonna keep it super simple and definitely something that anybody can do. So if you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Sami George. I teach natural looking makeup to women over 40 and typically women with imperfect skin, because that's what I have. Now, some of my makeup is already on today, so you can't see the redness, rosacea, acne, all the things I have going on, but trust me, you can in my other videos, so go check those out. If you are a returner, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. Either way, I would love it if you would like and subscribe so that you never miss a thing. And I just want to say, as always, thanks for being here. All right, friends, let's jump in. Let's get this hair out of the way so that you can see my contour line, and let's rock this thing out. So let's start with what is contour and what is bronzer and how do they come together to be Brontour? Okay, so I'm going to be talking about and using Seint's 3D foundation products, but this is universally the same regardless of kind of what product line you're using. So this is my contour. Contour, by rule of thumb for makeup, is meant to create or emulate the natural shadows on the face that already exist. So we have a natural shadow under our cheekbone. Sometimes we have one around our forehead, or we can create one, and then underneath the jawline, and you'll see people contour their nose and underneath their lip. All contour is meant to do is frame and provide definition to the face. And it is typically cooler, which means it has more of a gray base to it. Its goal is just to mimic natural shadow, which is why it has a cooler undertone to it. It's not meant to be like the star of the show. A really good contour, you like almost don't even notice that somebody's wearing it, unless of course you're doing like Kim K glam makeup, and then a really cool contour is like really sophisticated and edgy, but we're talking daily makeup here. So let me show you. This is my everyday contour. I am using Astoria. For those of you that use Seint, I'll swatch it a little bit darker, but this is my contour. It's matte. And the thing about Seint products that does differ from others, Seint is cream. All of our highlights and contours are cream, and all of them provide coverage. So wherever I put my contour, I'm actually gonna get coverage on my skin as well. Then we have bronzer. Bronzer is warm. It's meant to add warmth to the skin, which is more of mimicking the glow that you get when you get sun on the skin. Warmth on the skin tends to look youthful. It tends to keep our skin looking like glowing and hydrated. So you'll notice this is more ashy. It's meant for framing the face, defining shadow. This is more warm. And in Seint, our bronzers do not provide coverage. So this is actually a very sheer product, where this one's gonna have a little bit more opacity and definitely some coverage. This one's gonna be a little bit more sheer, but you will see contour versus bronzer. And now let me show you where they traditionally go on the face so you can see the difference. So on this half of the face, I'm going to kind of draw on my contour and bronzer where they would traditionally go. And then over here, we'll just Brontour. So let's dig into it. I typically apply my makeup like with my brush application and like applying color to the face and blending it in all at the same time. I know a lot of Seint artists draw on their makeup and then go back and blend. I find it easier to do the opposite, but for the sake of the video, I want to show you where your contour goes. It starts at the top of the ear, it hugs the top of the cheekbone and stops at the outer corner of the eye. Then we're gonna go underneath the jawline. Okay, so I drew my contour right underneath the jawline so you can see. Underneath the jawline, top of the cheekbone, and then traditionally, got a little dot there, around the top of the forehead, and then we can definitely go back in and blend this. But this is just like a little visual diagram of where your contour would go. When it comes to bronzer, your bronzer typically goes in this C shape, kind of within the contour line itself. So like right in here. Then you can put it down the neck and we would blend it all in from there. So our contour frames the face, and then your bronzer goes where the sun naturally hits, which is in this C shape here. And I typically pull mine down the neck just to make sure that everything matches. Sometimes when you apply the makeup right to the face and then you have to go in and blend it, it can be a little challenging. So let's see what happens. But what I want to do now is show you, let's go in and blend in our contour to show you how that contour provides kind of that cool definition to the face, and not like, hey, that's cool, right? But that cool toned definition to the face. This is how we go ahead and we frame it out. So I'm just gonna push this up into the hairline, drag it down onto the forehead, and I'm gonna go underneath my jawline and definitely pull it down the jawline. We don't want any harsh edges. So I'm just gonna build this up just a little bit to create more of a defined cheekbone and a little bit more definition in my forehead. Now it's time to blend in our bronzer, and what I would typically do is I would apply it straight to the face with this big fluffy brush, but it's gonna be a little challenging to blend in those dots with a big fluffy brush because we deposited more product than I typically would. So I'm just using a little bit more of a dense end, and now I am blending in my bronzer. So again, bronzer is meant to create and add warmth to the skin. Just give it kind of a dewy, glowing, youthful looking look. And then we put a little bit of bronzer down the neck to make sure everything was matching. And there we go. So we have our darkness here, just where we naturally would have some shadow on the face. Then we have our bronzer in this area. And typically those lines would kind of kiss each other a little bit more, hug together a little bit more seamlessly than it was showing right there. So what is Brontour and who is it for? Brontour is just using our bronzer in the areas that we would contour to get more of a subtle, warm framing to the face as opposed to a more defined, cooler, natural looking shadow. So who is this for? It's for anybody who wants to try it, right? So maybe you don't like to contour on the daily and you just want to do it when you go out to an event, but you do like the idea of framing the face a little bit, then Brontour would be for you. Maybe you really just prefer warmth. Now, no, there are warmer contours, so you could contour with a warmer color, or you could use a bronzer and get the same general effect. But if you want it to just be subtle, if you just want to naturally, subtly frame the face with some glow, try this. So I am using the shape brush from Seint. When I do this technique, I do not like to use, this is the detail brush. It is more dense and it would require me to essentially pack the product on in the same way. And that kind of defeats the purpose of Brontouring, right? So we are just looking for some subtle definition to the face. If I use my traditional bronzer brush, it's pretty big. So like it's gonna take up kind of a lot of space on the face. So I am using, this is a fluffy brush. It is a little bit smaller. I'm just gonna swirl it into our bronzer. And now I'm gonna go into that natural area where I would contour, top of the ear, out to the outside corner on the cheekbone. And I'm just gonna press this on a little bit and I'm like flicking upward. If I want to frame the face and I wanna lift it, then I don't wanna do these big swirls and create like this muddy area. A lot of people are nervous to contour because they're worried that their face is gonna look muddy, that if they're not really sharp with this line, that it's just gonna look gray. So you wanna keep that same general concept in mind when you're brontouring. Keep it up by the hairline. We can swirl a little bit here because we're just gonna kind of cover the same area that we would contour, the same area that we would bronze. So we're still creating that definition in the face. And now let's kind of fluff this out a little bit. I'm gonna do small circular motions just to make sure that we really disperse the product evenly. But we have now created definition on the face with just a warm bronzer. So it's really subtle. And you can keep kind of pressing or tapping until you have as much or as little product as you like. You can diffuse it out. Do the same thing. We'll pull some down the neck. I'm going to drag it along the jawline. And really, it can be that simple. If you ever end up using too much, like let's say that it gets just a little wide on the face. So right now, we've just kind of diffused it and it looks really, really natural. We still have a little bit of lift here. We've still pulled the face up. So if you're ever using this Brontour effect and you feel like, it just kind of looks more like bronzer, like I've just kind of created a subtle glow on the cheek, just go in to your main foundation, apply a little bit to the brush, and clean up that edge until you have a little bit more definition on that cheekbone. And now we're just using that bronzer to chisel the cheekbone in the same way that we do when we use this cooler contour. So you'll see here, we have more of a cooler shadow and then a little bit of that warm bronzer over top. And then I did add a little bit to the perimeter of my forehead, so hopefully it shows good on camera. But do you see how it is a little bit cooler around the perimeter of my forehead? A little bit more of a shadow, where here it's a little bit warmer. That is gonna be the difference between applying your contour and then applying your bronzer, or just using your bronzer to create some definition with our Brontour technique. Now here's the only thing that I would caution you on. If you are somebody that likes to contour the nose tends to be one of the most red or saturated parts of our face. So I personally wouldn't use bronzer on my nose. Adding warmth to warmth just might make my nose look more orange than I would prefer. So I would still probably stick with a cooler, ashier contour color, but you could certainly try. And if you do, you have to report back and let me know. Okay, you guys, let's finish this up. Be done with that headband here. And let's add our lip and cheek as we traditionally would. Same location, both sides, so you can see the finished product. Okay, this is Royal for all of my Seint lovers. She's so great for the fall. Check this out. This is, again, Royal. It's kind of that glossy wine color, just a gem. So let's put just the smallest amount on here. And now let's still hug that bronzer line the same way that we would with a contour line. So we're applying a little bit to the apples of our cheeks, 2 fingers away from the nose, outside apple of the cheek, and go up the Brontour line. Okay, little pop of color, and we're gonna keep that lift. You can do a little bit right here to keep everything really cohesive. And there we go, Brontour with some lip and cheek. Same thing here, except now we're gonna hug our contour line. So there's a little bit also where we put that bronzer. And you'll see we go up that line just the same. Bring some up here on the forehead if you like. And then we have contour, bronzer, lip and cheek. So it's not a ton of difference, and it's totally a matter of preference. But if you're looking for like easy, subtle glow with a little bit of definition, Brontouring is a really great option. Or if you're in like a super hurry, like say makeup is super fast, but Brontour can be even faster. So that's it, you guys. I hope you found this helpful. Brontour basics, the difference between contour and bronzer placement, and how you can kind of get it all in one. What is warmth? What is cool? We covered all the things. If you guys have questions, drop them in the comments below. And as always, we will see you again next week. And thank you for being here.